Okay, today Canon are adding a new lens to their VCM range of lenses. Now these are described as kind of hybrid lenses, right? So for photo and video, this is the new 20mm f1.4 L VCM lens. So it joins the 24mm, the 35mm, and the 50mm. They all have that nice fast aperture, f1.4. They all have a lot of different features actually in common as well, which is pretty interesting. And like I say, Canon kind of focus these as hybrid lenses, so photo and video. To me, they actually feel more video focused than anything else. There are certain features like the aperture ring on the lenses being clickless with no option to have the click on or off, right? That feels more video focused because having the click off for your aperture ring, of course it's a personal choice, but feels more like something you would want when you're shooting video, as opposed to the tactile feel you might want from doing that when you're taking photos. But you know, on paper, this is going to be pretty similar to the 24mm, right? 20mm, 24mm, otherwise very similar lenses. But actually, when you talk about wide angle focal lengths like that 4mm can make quite a big difference. 20mm is just that touch wider to allow you to get some great establishing shots, right? Tracking shots, some nice wider shots. And actually it gives you a little bit more choice over what's going to work better for you. Perhaps, for example, a 20mm added in with the 35, for example, maybe, is going to work better for your workflow than the 24, whereas for someone else, the 24 and the 50 might work better. And I'm always a big fan of having more choice for creators, right? Whether you're a photographer or a videographer. Of course, this does have some great applications when it comes to photography as well. You've got a really nice fast aperture there to let in lots of light. So shooting low light is going to be fantastic with this lens, whether you're shooting kind of landscape stuff, interiors, events, or whether you want to go out and shoot astro stuff, which with the 20mm lens is absolutely something that you could do. Now I have tried that while I've had the lens. Beautiful clear day and then incredibly foggy at night. So I just couldn't see any part of the sky, which is unfortunate. But you know, that always seems to be the way when I get a lens that I think will be perfect for that night sky shot, and then it just doesn't happen. But hopefully I'll get my hands on it again and we can test that out. Now, the lens itself has an 11-bladed aperture, which gives you some really nice, smooth bokeh for those out of focus areas. That's not something you're going to be focusing on that much when it comes to a wider angle lens like this, but it is still really important, right? That image quality is beautiful. Not a massive surprise. It is an L lens after all, and generally speaking, you would expect a certain level of quality when it comes to the optics, and it certainly doesn't disappoint. I think this looks really, really beautiful, whether you are taking those photos or videos. Nice and sharp, some really great detail, and like I say, 20mm allows you quite a bit of flexibility and versatility for the stuff you're going to shoot. It also works really nicely with the autofocusing cameras like the R5, where you are able to use that tracking autofocus if you're shooting video, if you're shooting photo, whatever it might be. Again, not something I think about as much with the wider angle lenses, but still really, really important. The design of the lens is very similar to the other VCM lenses that we've seen in terms of the kind of size and the weight, which means it's going to fit in really well again if you're using multiples of these lenses in a workflow, right? If you want to swap this out with, let's say, the 50mm, for example, it's pretty straightforward. Whether it's on a gimbal, set up in a rig, whatever it might be, it's going to be pretty easy to just swap these in and out as you're shooting without having to reset everything up around the lens because it's such a different size or weight. That just makes it so much easier if you want to be using these different lenses for the same shoot, right? You're going to get the same kind of optical quality, the same look to your shots, of course, just a different focal length. You've got that same nice fast aperture to work with, which is fantastic. So you don't really have to worry about that. That's always going to be the same across the different lenses. And then the size and the weight being very similar means it's just very, very easy to swap these in and out. So I mentioned before, of course, you've got the aperture ring, or it's more of an iris ring really, because it feels more video focused. But you've got that on here, no option to click it on and off. So it is just smooth, it's just de-clicked. Now, personally, this is always the thing I mentioned with these VCM lenses. I would love to see an option to have the click on. I just like that. And when they're hybrid lenses, I think it makes sense because, you know, when I'm shooting photos, I like to have the tactile feel of having that click when I turn it. I understand the reasoning that Canon have for making it smooth only. You know, bear in mind it's a video focused kind of setup. Even so, I would love to see the click on and off switch just on the lens. But that's clearly a design decision across all of these VCM lenses. So, you know, that is what it is. Otherwise, of course, you've got the iris lock, the AF/MF switch on there as well, and a customizable button on the side, which you could set to do different things if you want to. And of course, you've got the customizable ring at the front, which is nice, which is really nice. I mean, you could use this for all kinds of different things. ISO, for example, that might be quite handy. I think it's really cool. I think this is a great addition to the range of VCM lenses. While I think that the 24 and the 20 are pretty similar in terms of focal lengths, I think that it's just great to have more choice for creators, right? I think it just makes sense to have different lenses for different needs. Maybe you wouldn't get both of those lenses, but maybe you would pick the one that's going to suit you better. For me personally, actually, I think the 20mm makes more sense alongside maybe something like the 35 or the 50. So you've got just that slightly wider focal length to play with. I'll be honest with you, I'd love to see some slightly longer focal lengths in the VCM range, just because I think it's a pretty cool idea having these kind of hybrid lenses like this. So I'd love to see some longer stuff for those super sort of cinematic shots. But I'd love to know what you think. 20mm, f1.4, is that more interesting to you than the 24? You know, that's probably the decision to be made, right? Which one's going to suit you better, 24 or 20? Let me know in the comments which one suits you better. Like I say, for me, I think it's the 20. But I'd love to know what you think. You can check out this lens, the full spec, all of the kind of stuff you want to see, as well as the pricing, everything like that over at parcameras.com. There's a link down in the description so you can go and check it all out for yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us. There's new content coming all the time. I will see you in the next video. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.